Hi everyone, and welcome to Tarot for You 444. It's so lovely to have you with me today. If you're new to my channel, this is Harry. If you're new to my channel, we've got bad curtains in the background on purpose because they're a metaphor for how imperfectly perfect the twin flame journey can be. Okay, I've actually had a few offers to send me new curtains. Thank you. But I really like my curtains. So we're going to keep them. We're going to see how they mismatched. We've got that one there, which I think's got leaves, just general leaves on them. And then we've got this whole bamboo feel, this Zen kind of feel coming up. And Harry loves them, Harry's addicted to bad furnishings. Oh, and tacos, apparently. He likes tacos. Anyway, we'll put Harry away for a moment because the topic I have to talk to you about today is probably one of the most important topics that I'll ever bring up on my channel. Wow. So that's pretty important. Okay, so in Australia, welcome. I'm in Australia, welcome. I want to quickly bring up that if you need help with your twin flame journey, my email details are in the description box below. I don't just do readings, but I also do ascension packages and, energy work to help you, get in union with your twin. So it's not just, let me do a reading and see where you and your twin are at. I can actually help you get into union as well. So if you're interested in that, please contact me below and I'd love to help you with that. Okay, so I want to bring up the topic of distorted masculine and distorted feminine versus divine feminine and divine masculine. Okay, so this topic is really important because a lot of the people I deal with on the twin flame journey have this mismatch going on. So there might be a divine feminine who's out of her distorted energy, and then they're dealing with a distorted masculine who's still in his distorted energy. And so they're having a really difficult time coming together in the journey. And this goes the other way too. You can have a distorted feminine who, can't get into union with their divine masculine because the divine masculine is the one who is not in the distorted energy. So let me say, can we go back and forth from these energies? And what do I mean by distorted? I wrote some notes here, so just bear with me as I read them. Okay, so an example of a distorted feminine or masculine would be one who hurts themselves, okay? One who hurts others, one who lacks compassion, one who is lacking in love. The distorted energy will also be at war with themselves or others. They look for happiness or gratification outside of themselves, and they disinclude their spiritual practice or their belief in God, Buddha, Allah, the deity they believe in. They negate all of that. So, whereas they, if they were Christian, let's say, they might just shun that. Or if they were spiritual, doing shamanic healing practices or something like that, they might just shun that as an example, okay? So on the other hand, the divine masculine or divine feminine energy will give to the self, will give to others, has compassion for the self and others, will give unconditional love to the self and others, is at peace with themselves and others, and looks for happiness or gratification within themselves not outside of themselves. Okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up today is that I've had a few clients and friends come to me and say just things like, you know, I don't know, in the past, maybe they want to go to a party, okay, because, you know, they want an emotional connection, they want a physical connection, they want to, you know, socialize with people and friends and all of that kind of thing. So this is just an example. So let's say Mark, Harry can be Mark just for a minute. Okay, yeah, he doesn't mind. So he's going to go to this party, okay? He's in his divine masculine energy right now. So he's all spiritual, you know, he's awake enough to understand that, you know, he needs to love himself and eat well and, you know, give to others and be unconditional loving, still with boundaries. Unconditional love doesn't mean you don't have boundaries, okay? But this one night he gets invited to this party. And when he gets to the party, some of the triggers that used to trigger him before he was in his divine masculine energy means that this night he's going to have methamphetamines or drugs, let's say. Okay? And then he's going to decide to have sex with a stranger, let's say. And then after that, you know, he's going to, I don't know, party and dance and sing and, you know, maybe drink a lot of alcohol, maybe, you know, do behaviors that he wouldn't do if he was in his divine masculine energy. Okay, so Mark goes to the party, does all of that. You know, thankfully nothing happens to him, as in, you know, he didn't drive and he didn't hurt someone, you know, he didn't get into that energy where, you know, it was toxic to other people. He mostly just hurt himself, his own body, his own physical vessel, okay? So a lot of you watching the channel may say, well, so yeah, good, he had a great night, he had sex, he got high, he, you know, had a wonderful time. Okay, but this is where I want to challenge you, if you think that, because I want to tell you that it could have gone a different way. I want to tell you now that Mark still went to the party and had methamphetamines and still had sex with that stranger that he never met before, and he partied. But I want to give you the downside to this. Not only did he hurt his body or hurt himself, but that particular woman that he had sex with now finds herself pregnant because she forgot and he forgot to use precautions because they were both high. So now we've got a situation where Mark and, let's say, Lena have a baby that they didn't want to bring into the world. Okay? And then Mark decided that he was going to go home that night to his own wife, who he cheated on. I'm not judging at all here, by the way, just letting you know. But he'd been in a marriage for, I don't know, let's say 5 years. And, you know, his current partner or wife couldn't get pregnant. And they'd been struggling with this. So not only has he got the issue of not being able to get his own wife pregnant, but he's just gotten someone else pregnant. And this Lena girl that he had sex with at the party, that he wouldn't have had sex with if he wasn't high, she wants to keep the baby. Not only does she want to keep the baby, she wants to make sure that Mark pays for the baby. So now he's got this new issue, and he also needs to obviously come clean about what he's done with his current partner. Okay, so let's make the story a little bit worse just for fun. Not for fun, but just so we can see what could potentially happen. So on that particular night, he drove home. He, because he was so high, his best friend was actually really unwell, and he couldn't take care of his best friend, so he kind of dumped him off at at his place, dropped him home, and left him to his own devices. So instead of taking care of him, he couldn't do that. But also on the way home, because he was high, he ran over a small animal, and this animal lost its life because of his evening of freedom, his evening of fun, his one evening of being distorted. Okay, so this is just an example of what can happen, and it can happen to women too. Women can go out and get pregnant, and they can, by accident, by complete accident, and they can get high, and they can make themselves physically sick, and they can hurt friends, and they can yell at people they don't mean to yell at. So this is just an example, okay? So I'm not judging either way whether someone should drink or have drugs, or go to a party or have sex or not have sex. That's not the point to my story. The point to my story is that when you are in your distorted energy and you think you're free, you actually take a lot of freedom away from the self and from other people, because your actions have consequences. So in every moment, as a human being, we're making decisions, and whatever we're deciding to do, whether that's to ourselves or to other people, has a consequence. Okay, so you might say that every action has a reaction. Okay, so as an example, if someone yells at you, you've got the choice to yell back at them, or you've got the choice to walk away. What would the distorted feminine or masculine energy do? Would they argue, or would they walk away? Would they hurt the other person, or would they love the other person and themselves enough to stop the argument? So anyway, I want to move on from this a little bit to just expand it a little further and say to you, what is freedom to you? Is freedom getting high to you? Is freedom going into the garden and, planting new seeds? Is freedom dancing in your room? Is freedom praying? Is freedom eating your favorite food? Is freedom watching pornography? Is freedom giving to another person? Is freedom having a bubble bath? What is freedom to you? And is your freedom in a distorted or a divine energy? Because we all have the ability to go into that distorted energy. There is a distorted feminine and a distorted masculine, just as there is a divine feminine and a divine masculine. And what I want to move on to now is saying that this emotional need for gratification outside of oneself, outside of one's inner peace, outside of one's inner meditation, outside of one's own connection to God or Source or Spirit or Buddha or Allah or whoever you believe in, is unnecessary. And I would invite you to understand that if you have had trauma in your life, in your childhood, in your past, if you've been hurt in your childhood, in your previous relationships, in your past, it might be by a mother or a father or an auntie or an uncle, or someone who sexually molested you, or someone who abused you in some way, shape or form. This trauma will bring about the need for something outside of the self to cope. Okay? So for some people, it will be alcohol. For some people, it would be food. For some people, it would be pornography. For some people, it might be gambling. For some people, it might be, smoking cigarettes. For some people, it might be methamphetamines or drugs. For some people, it might be prescription medication. For some people, it might be sex, as in unhealthy, toxic relationship, kind of lustful sex, right? And I'm not saying sex is bad. That's not what I'm trying to say. And I know that this video will trigger some people, and it's meant to do that. Okay? So if I get thumbs down and I get comments in the comments, it's fine. I understand that, but I want you to understand that whatever you're seeking outside of yourself in an addictive kind of way, in a need to have it kind of way, is because either number one, there's been trauma and you're using it to cope, or number two, you are lacking love in some way, shape or form, whether that was from your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your past relationship, whoever that is. Okay, so lack of love is why the world is in the state it's in today, is why there are greedy people, selfish people, horrible people, nasty people, people who are narcissistic, people who are greedy, people who have no care for others. Okay? So the answer to all of this is that there's a lack of love. Okay? So in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, and you can, you can take it how it resonates or doesn't resonate for you. But the reason why people do things is because they are lacking in love. Okay, their need for love is so strong that they are looking outside of themselves. I'll just grab my cards. Okay, so they're not coping. So they say, not only am I going to have 1 glass of wine, I'm going to have 10 glasses of wine. Actually make it 2 bottles. Not only am I going to have, smoke a blunt or a joint or whatever, I'm going to smoke 10 of them. Not only am I going to watch porn, but I'm going to watch 18 videos of porn and come 19,000 times so that I feel better. And then when I go and have that piece of cake, I'm not just going to have 1 piece of cake, I'm going to eat half of the cake. And when I get angry at that person, not only am I going to yell at them, I'm going to scream my lungs out at them and make them feel like shit. And then later on, I'm going to feel like shit too. Okay? So not only does the distorted energy hurt themselves, they hurt other people because of the lack of love. Okay? And so then people say, yeah, but we're supposed to be free. We can drink. We can, have, we can have marijuana. We can have sex with whoever we want. We can be naked on the beach. We can do all of these things. But I'm asking you to ask yourself, if you're resonating with all of that, why would you need to do it if you were coping? Because to me, in my opinion, that doesn't feel very loving. Having sex with multiple partners, drinking, 18 liters of wine, having, that whole cake instead of just a piece of cake. There is no balance there. And then, of course, these behaviors make people sick, physically sick, mentally sick, emotionally sick, because every time now that they've got a problem, they reach out for this behavior. And this is why, in particular in Australia, we have many, many people with drinking problems, many, many people with alcoholism, many, many people addicted to drugs, many, many people committing suicide. Many, many people not coping. Many, many people using pharmaceuticals to soothe themselves, you know, like as in prescription medications. Many people gambling. Many people using food to cope. Okay? So I want to bring this topic up so it triggers whoever it's meant to trigger. If it's not triggering you, that's great. That's good. You're in a good place. But for some people, they're going to say, no, nah, you're wrong. I'm going to, you know, lay naked on the beach, smoking 18 joints, and then I'm going to, you know, down 3 bottles of tequila with my friends and have sex with whom I like and do what I like. And then I'm going to tell you now that you're lacking in love and that love is the only answer, and that what would love do now? And love would send you a video right now of me telling you that you're lacking in love, and the only reason that you're reaching for these things is because you need love. Okay? I've worked with hundreds of people, well, probably more than hundreds of people now. I've seen this in many divine feminines and many divine masculines, where they cope or they think they're free by going to all these things outside of themselves. And I'm telling you that you're not free. You're trapped in the need for it. You're trapped in that you need to have it. You're doing it to cope. And so if we get rid of that need to cope and come into a space of unconditional love and ascend the vibration into the divine feminine or masculine energy, then you will attract your twin flame far quicker. So whatever behavior you're doing, this isn't a judgment at all. You know, this is not a judgment. This is not a judgment video. We've all done things to cope in our lives, whether that's food or porn or multiple people having sex with, or that you know, that you married or are with the wrong person right now because you made bad choices, or you had a baby that you never planned for, or that you find yourself in a situation, in a home situation with people and housemates that you don't like, or that you listen to your family when they really are being belligerent and terrible to you. You give your power away to other people by not being in your divinity. Not only do you hurt yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, and on a soul level, but you are hurting the other people around you when you do these distorted behaviors. I can't wait for the comment section here. Okay. So, if we want to change the world as twin flames or light workers, or whatever you think you are on the spiritual plane, you need to come into unconditional love. Love is the opposite of fear. Love is the opposite of guilt. Love is the opposite of shame. Love is the opposite of all of those things that you feel when you feel like you're not coping. Love is the only law. Love is the only answer. And however you want to express that love, as long as it hurts nobody, including yourself, is fine. Okay? If you're expressing love by yelling at someone on social media because they don't agree with your standpoint on a certain topic, then that's not unconditional love. That's being distorted. If you want to have a conversation with someone, you have enough respect to have a conversation with them. Okay, so if you have a distorted masculine or a distorted feminine that you're trying to come into union with, they are lacking love. Okay, so when someone's lacking love, it's first of all the love of self that needs to come from themselves, and also from the people, places, and situations around them. So if your divine masculine or feminine is acting up, is being toxic in any way, I invite you to look at yourself and say, am I being toxic to myself or others in any way? Am I yelling at the neighbor? Am I indulging too much in something? Am I working too much? Am I guilt tripping myself for not being there for these multiple people that seem to need me all the time? Am I overextending myself to the point of exhaustion? Loving yourself is not selfish. Loving yourself means that you have enough energy left to give other people. If loving yourself means going to a party, getting high, having sex with multiple people and laying on the beach naked in front of a campfire, then I would suggest that you rethink what it is to be a divine masculine or feminine. I suggest that you rethink what it is that you're here to do as a divine masculine or a divine